What is going on, Tentacrew? My name is Billy the Squid, and welcome to Tentacrew Talk, a series where we go through the comments on my commentary videos, and I get the community's opinions on the opinions that I brought out in my own videos. So if you are interested in being featured in one of these videos, this is all the more reason just to comment on my videos. Let me know what you think. Maybe you'll be featured in the next Tentacrew Talk. Today's episode is going to be based around the Elden Ring Wants to Ruin Solo Invasions video that I put out about a week ago. It went over the idea that FromSoftware has stated in interviews that they don't plan to allow invaders to invade solo players. The invading is going to be limited to co-op players only. And I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on that because I think it's a damn shame to segregate off a chunk of your player base from a PvP aspect. And a lot of people did not agree with this. A lot of people, and I would say probably the majority of Dark Souls players, the majority of FromSoftware games players, Bloodborne, Sekiro, all that stuff. Sekiro was a breath of fresh air because there was no PvP to it. And I have a feeling that a good majority of the community just does not care about PvP, let alone caring about invasions. They see it as more of a hindrance than a boon to whatever the environment that FromSoftware is wanting to create. That being said, the PvP community is very passionate, and the ones that do enjoy invasions extremely love invasions. So we're going to get both sides of the coin in these comments. Some of them are pretty good, some of them are pretty funny. And yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? And just for clarity's sake, none of the comments that I'm going to show today are going to have names attached to them. I don't want anybody thinking I'm trying to witch hunt them or call them out for anything. I just want to go through the comments and kind of see where everybody's mindset is on the topics I brought up and kind of give a little retort back. So the first comment that I want to highlight is, although From said that their decision isn't final, I really hope they don't gank invaders like that. I've had a lot of fun with them, even if they can be annoying sometimes. Even the good ones are some of the most memorable experiences I've had. So I hope From doesn't follow through with this decision to gank invaders in an unfair 2v1. And this was the whole point that I was bringing up in the video, and this is my mindset going into it. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. As somebody who enjoys all aspects of the Souls games, I enjoy the PvP, I enjoy the PvE, I enjoy all of that. But I think it would be a right shame for invaders to have to put up with co-op invasions all the time. At least if you want to go this route, and this is the solution that I put forward in that video, make it so that it's a Covenant-based thing. Make it so that the Blue Sentinels or whatever the Covenant that is going to be equal to that in Elden Ring, make it so that they get something out of it. If you're going to go with the co-op system, make it something that is going to have a little bit more feedback. That way the solo players can still do what they want to do. And then they have the option if they want to be solo or not, or if they want to have somebody co-op in anytime somebody invades. That is my mindset, the best way to go about it. All facets win, I think, in that regard. Moving on, an opt-out system similar to human effigies could work, but we don't know for sure because we don't know all the design decisions FromSoftware made for this game and how all of those systems will interact with each other. Extremely true. And this is all speculation coming from one single comment that was made during the interviews of Elden Ring. Just the fact that solos players would not be invaded. They could have systems already in line working on this problem. There could be a very good reason for this problem. But as it stands right now, the only thing we have to go off is how they have handled PvP in every other game that they've released. And it is a community assumption, and it is an assumption that this game is going to be handled in a similar fashion to that. Given that it's open world, there could be a lot more caveats to that on why solos are being left out of the invasion pool. We will have to see. Continuing with the comment though, it worked in Dark Souls 2 because you had to choose if you wanted the effigy for health increase or blocking all online activity minus messages and bloodstains. But since Elden Ring apparently has no effigies or humanity or embers or anything equivalent, I don't know how it is going to turn out. Covenant areas weren't affected by the effigy because you weren't able to block invasions and co-op in those zones. Also in Dark Souls 2, you were able to invade hosts who were hollow or had the area boss defeated, which acted as a balance to the effigy, so blues, reds, and cooperators weren't left out of the online pool. Very, very well worded comment here. He kind of went through all the facets on why I think FromSoftware should try to implement as many features from the Dark Souls 2 PvP experience as they can, because I wholeheartedly believe that Dark Souls 2 had the best PvP setup out of any of the games, minus Soul Memory, but we'll not touch on that one because it's a sore subject. Dark Souls 2 did allow you to be invaded after you'd killed the boss. It did allow you to invade when you weren't in your like high health state, whether it be embered or hollow or whatever it was. That was a great thing. The giving the player the ability through burning effigies at a bonfire was a good opt-out mechanic, and a lot of these comments go through with opt-out mechanics in mind. Moving on to the next comment. While there can be a lot of good experiences from invasions, the bad ones stand out a lot more from the good ones, which is why From is probably doing the changes they are doing. I've rarely had a good invasion myself. Played Dark Souls 3 after a 2-year break, and my first invasion was someone using a Ring City two-handed weapon in the Undead Settlement at level 20. It's gotta change. Twinks and that kind of stuff are the reason that this system is being implemented. I wholeheartedly believe it's either Twinkers or Griefers, or it is some unknown system that we don't know about in Elden Ring that is creating this decision from FromSoftware. A decision that they say is not a final decision, but it very well could be implemented into the game in its current state. Another comment that kind of echoes this sentiment is invasions in Dark Souls 3, as far as I've seen, have turned away from the games every person that I've tried to introduce them to. We play co-op because playing games with other people is fun, and games are meant to be enjoyed. None of the YouTubers arguing in favor of invasions take into account the other side, especially the new player experience. I actually did do that. My mindset on it, and if you haven't watched the other video, I highly recommend you do it, but the long and short of what I was suggesting was give it so that the Help Covenant and the Help Others Covenant are given at the very beginning of the game, or at least very close to the beginning of the game. That way, solo players or new players have the ability to have somebody come in and help them whenever one of these events happen. And it gives more of the experienced players right off the get-go the ability to help out these new players whenever they are being attacked by hostile invaders. Also, I echoed that if a successful invasion is, like, defeated, if you defeat an invader with a blue, or even if you don't defeat an invader with a blue and you just defeat them by yourself, there should be a draw similar to what the human effigy system in Dark Souls 2 is, where you pop it and it disables invasions in that zone for a certain amount of time. I think that is the best way of going about having the on-off switch kind of PvP system, but also keeping the covenants and the online flow of community alive in this. Because when it comes to Dark Souls games, you've got to have heroes, you've got to have villains, and then you've got to have the rest of the community, basically. That is the way it works, and I think them trying to deviate this community, like the central main bulk of the community, that they could be inadvertently destroying heroes and villains in the process by not giving them the option. But continuing on with this comment, there's a lot of arguments about offline play, but that doesn't recognize games are fun to be played with others. I've said before, and I see the only answer, an on-off toggle in the main menu that allows players to co-op without invasions. Co-op isn't about making the game easy, as a lot of people say. It's about sharing the fun with others. Completely agree. Co-op is a completely different experience, and I would not say it is easier or harder at all. It is just a different way of playing the game. Defeating a tough area or an epic boss isn't lessened because you are experiencing that with another person. It's enhanced. Completely agree, especially if it's two newbies going at the game together. That is a beautiful experience. I'm not against invasions. I invade. The problem is there are so many toxic invaders that are shutting them out of a new player's game is probably the only way to limit the damage that they cause. Griefers reduce the number of people who will complete, for example, Dark Souls 3. People who don't complete one game don't buy DLC, don't buy any other FromSoftware games. If From wants to sell more copies, they need to reduce the damage griefers can cause, and a toggle in the menu is likely the simplest and best solution. Simplest, yes. Best, to be determined. I don't know whether best would be the word I would use. It 100% is the simplest route to go, though. I would just like to think FromSoftware is a little bit more creative than that. The next comment is, I like dueling and invading for different reasons. When I duel somebody, it's when I want to test my pure combat skills. Same, brother. I enjoy invasions for a bit more of the mind game tricks and level design, or weird, interesting methods or strategies. Getting ganked sucks, but it's the risk I'll take if it's the only option, because when you do beat an entire gank squad as an invader, it feels so satisfying. Yeah, there's a lot of the community that I have seen echoing this sentiment where, yes, it's going to be unfortunate, but I will do it just because I love the nature of invading. Invading and dueling, while they are PvP in a sense, they are completely different experiences in my mind, and I echo this. I will also be taking part in invasions, both being invaded and invading if possible, and it is a very satisfying experience. This kind of a mindset also comes with the thought that, hey, FromSoftware is very blatant in the fact that they want invaders to lose most of the time. That is why a lot of the community doesn't seem to have too much of an issue with this mindset, even though if given the option, I think a lot of them would prefer both ways. They'll take what they can get. Invaders and hosts both should receive more tools for co-op, like giving invaders an item like the Seed of the Giant Tree that extends the detection range to combat bonfire campers, or giving both sides an item that makes a Blade of the Dark Moon style eye thing, guiding you to the location of the other players. The eye thing, I think, is 100% a good idea, and maybe a necessity for how big this game is going to be. I know the open world areas most likely aren't going to have any co-op or invasions to them, at least not from what FromSoftware is kind of hinting at. That could change, but I don't believe invaders really need any more tools. I don't think a Seed of the Giant Tree is something that is really necessary, considering invaders already have the enemies at their disposal that they can kite back into. If somebody wants to wait at the bonfire, that's completely on them. It does slow down your experience, but c'est la vie. That being said, more tools in general, similar to a consumable item like what I was saying, where you can opt out of invasions or opt into invasions, that could be another mindset that FromSoftware can take. I think more items along those lines, and not like these kind of niche, I'm going to make the enemies attack you from further away, are the way to go. But I do think Seeds of the Giant Tree should 100% or something similar be in this game, just to make the experience a little bit better for the people being invaded. Because again, invaders are supposed to lose. Keep that in mind. In reference to the topic of the video and stuff, there's also concern that having invaders limited to co-op, in this comment, they say, it also could limit high-level and New Game Plus invasions later on when the release boom dies down. That is 100% true. That is 100% true. The co-op community is going to thrive, but anything that is limiting your player base to a specific criteria like that is going to limit things down as the game ages. As the player base dies down, the more dedicated players stick around, but they might not be PvP or co-oping as much. And this is going to definitely limit the amount of high-level stuff, because once you get to high levels, you pretty well stop co-oping. Co-oping is typically done, from what I've experienced at least, for new players or for just playing around with your friends, making builds, stuff like that. High-level co-op, while fun, I don't think it really exists as much. I could be wrong. If you high-level co-op, let me know down in the comments below. I could be eating my words right now. This comment reads, ganking is fun. I can't wait to gank invaders all day with my friends, and I hope I can point down at them as well. I do too. Ganking is a part of the game, just like invading is part of the game. And if this is going to be similar to how Dark Souls and stuff is, this is a completely valid assumption and a completely valid thing to find fun in. Ganking is a good time. And whatever emotes you want to put in the game from, I'm all for it. If you want to put front point down back in the game, let's have it. There's still going to be plenty of places people meet up for PvP. FromSoftware doesn't want tryhard invaders or griefers ruining the new experience and returning players' playthroughs. Most new players will probably stop playing because some Souls players are so good and cheese the game so hard they are almost unbeatable to a new player, and that could ruin someone's outlook on the game. That's really good, but had forced mechanics built into it, most people won't invest 200 hours to make a perfect build for PvP and a perfect build for PvE. Also, a good solution is to keep solo invasions and to put in a feature to cut off invasions completely. You shouldn't make someone deal with random invasions because you like it. It's nothing but a pain in the ass for some people. I agree. That's why I wanted to go the consumable route where you can disable invasions for X amount of time when you're successful in completing an invasion. Another group of the community says if you lose to an invader, you should get an item like this. That could be another route to go. I just think the other route would be more beneficial to the Covenant systems in general and give blues a little bit more reason to exist. But that could be a very optimal reason as well if we don't want to go with the on-off switch. This comment, oh look, another person telling FromSoft how to design their game without having even played it, only going off of a tiny amount of information and using a clickbait title, definitely claiming FromSoftware has purposefully ruined the online aspect of their biggest game to date. That shit is cringe, bro. Do I trust the company that has released hit after hit over the past 10 plus years, or some YouTuber with 400 subscribers who enjoys fabricating details in order to get anger clicks? That's fair. I wouldn't say my title is clickbait though, considering if solo invasions don't exist in Elden Ring, what else is that besides ruined? A non-existence of a feature is ruining that feature. Case, it's just as simple as that. But I 100% agree that we don't have enough information on this for anybody to be taking any opinions of YouTubers 100% seriously, especially until we have played the game. If the game comes out and we still have this feature in place, and it is in a state where it is unoptimal, where it is not fun to be an invader, not fun to play co-op because you're constantly being invaded, then we can have room to talk. But the game could come out, everything works perfectly, no solo invaders isn't that big of a deal, and everybody is happy. And on that day, I will happily eat my words, and I hope that whatever FromSoftware does makes me eat my words in one way or the other. I hope that they either change the aspect or have it in place in a way that is beneficial to everybody. Because at the end of the day, I want as many people to enjoy the game as possible. The next comment, MB4, don't judge my game. You don't share my opinion 100% on this. You're so dumb. As far as the topic goes, some of my favorite times in Dark Souls 3 was griefers griefing. Can't remember the location, but it was the second location that was big with invasions, and when we would get invaded, it was see how they act. If the person moved into the mob, Sea of the Giant Tree for the win, and Heck W. Yes, Sea of the Giant Tree, or giving the invadee more options to deal with invaders would be a good outlook. More options, maybe something that buffs the enemies in the area, similar to how grave lording happens. That could be pretty cool, but it only works to invaders. That would be really neat. Maybe they could combine the Sea of the Giant Tree and the Grave Lord aspect into one kind of mechanic. Who knows? Could be fun. They just need to make invasions optional. That is all they need to do. Why is it so hard of a solution for FromSoftware to grasp? Some people like invasions, 1v1 or 2, 1v2, etc. Some people do not like invasions. Simple. And yes, simple is what that would be. I do believe that FromSoftware is trying their best to avoid going this route because they haven't implemented this in any of their games. Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, all of these games have had PvP, but they have had it implemented in different ways. If it was as simple as an on-off switch, I feel like From would have done it by now. They're too creative for that kind of a response, and given how creative they have been with their attempts in the past, I think that they are really looking for the most optimal route, which is why they brought this up to begin with, so the community could talk, and maybe they could get a better idea on how to handle griefers, twinkers, that kind of stuff in the game. I completely agree. Thank you. Glad you agreed with that last video. Yeah, I play PvP a lot, and I know how to deal with ganks, but this time, the game will be different. Hoping they buff invaders. I don't think invaders need buffed. Like I said earlier in the video, I understand that invaders are supposed to lose. I get that. I don't think invaders need a buff. Like, even if the ganking thing goes through and it's only invasions into co-op, I don't think invaders need a buff to be able to counteract this. I do believe that the philosophy that invaders should lose most of the time should be kept. I do believe the philosophy that invaders are just supposed to be high-powered enemies, basically. They're not supposed to be people that come in and ruin an experience. I don't think a buff is necessary. Although ganking will suck. We'll get used to it. The last comment goes with the on-off switch. There was some conversation going on in the comments, and this was one of the comments to those comments. Uncreative solution cannot be denied. Makes sense from a business perspective, yes, and at the end of the day, games are products and a business. If there's multiplayer systems so far aren't attracting the number of players they know their games can get, they have to make a change. They've been trying out new things with every game, and that's a good thing. Like their player base against tough bosses, they've chosen to learn from trial and error. What about a checkpoint matchmaking? 0 invasions before a certain point in the game. Use Dark Souls 3 as an example. Absolutely no invasions, red soapstones excluded, before the Abyss Watchers. No matter what they do, they're going to have to deal with toxic players. Twinks, griefers, hackers, cheats, etc. Every game has them. They're not going away. And that is 100% true. They are not going to be going away. And my biggest concern is that this is going to ruin the co-op experience. This is going to be so that those players have no other outlet than to become gang spankers. They have no other outlet than to build so optimally that they're able to dispatch 2 or 3 players in a group. And then you have the risk of your co-op experience being ruined on top of your invasion experience being ruined. It could be potentially a double whammy if they go through this, but only time will tell. And again, if things come out beautiful, I will happily eat crow on all of this. As far as the checkpoint matchmaking goes, it's a very decent way of going about it. The more of a gap you decrease between invaders and the invadee, the less chance that you're going to get with there being issues. Say if you do go through with this and you're not able to be invaded before the Abyss Watchers, you kill the Abyss Watchers, or you can make it so that a boss death triggers invasions into your world, like you kill a Covenant leader and then their players come in to revenge you. That could be an interesting way to go about it so that everybody wins. People that want solo invasions through their game can go and rush this boss, and don't make it something difficult, but make it so that players can go and rush this and then play through the game with those invaders in mind. But that is all we have for today's video. Thank you all for commenting. And remember, on future videos, if there is anything that you want to discuss, maybe get featured on a future video, never hesitate to comment down in the comments below and let me know today what you thought of today's video and if you would like to see more. But until then, much love, Tentacrew. Bye-bye.